Two very different properties in two very different places, but with one thing in common. Their stunning locations could reap these developers serious money.
The building cost me 1.41 million. On top of that, I'm spending £600,000. That brings me up to 2.1 million. It's a huge project for me.
Everybody thinks property developing is going to be real hard, but I mean, how hard can it be to say, I like that, I don't like that, or that's got to be bigger, or that's got to be smaller?
To get a premium for a development, it pays to think what your unique selling point could be. One way of making a real impact is to get a great location, and a brilliant view can add tens of thousands of pounds to a property's value. But overlook the principles of property development and that dream can quickly turn into a nightmare. If it's a location with pulling power you're after, the coast and countryside are good starting points. Last year, over 250,000 people headed out of the city in search of a more relaxed lifestyle. And tonight, I'm meeting with two developers trying to cash in on these buyers. Record producer Gareth Milford thinks that the countryside is the place to be. He's hoping that Ross-on-Wye on the Welsh borders will be the big draw for people wanting a bit of peace and quiet, and hopes to make his fortune from this 100-year-old hillside cottage.
The main selling point for the property is the view. You know, there's no two ways about it. It's just you can't buy it, but someone's going to have to.
Miles Gilbert reckons Brighton is the place to profit from the sea change in modern living. In fact, he's banking on it.
It's a great place to be building. I think it's on the up and up. I did some homework on the place. I liked what I found, and I found the right project for me.
Miles has taken on a real challenge, a huge Georgian property on the seafront. Not only is he going to refurbish the 15 flats that already exist in the building, he's planning to build a luxury penthouse apartment on the roof. It's a massive project to take on, especially as Miles's previous experience only consists of developing 3 one-bed flats and building his extension. But Miles is nothing if not determined.
I'd made a commitment to myself that I was going to go into the development game on a larger scale because I needed to make this my primary income. It's my fascination, it's my hobby, it's my passion.
Miles is hoping his new hobby will allow him to create a high-spec, high-tech penthouse which will attract a wealthy buyer with money to burn. The most phenomenal view. I mean, that's a view money can't buy, can it, really?
It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. One of the reasons for taking this place was specifically for this view.
And what an amazing space up here. And what's the plan?
As far as the penthouse is concerned, it's a 3-bedroom penthouse. I've achieved planning permission for the roof terrace. It'll cover approximately 2/3 of this area. Big glass box conservatory with hot tub and staircase coming up. So we really want to make a feature of that.
So it's a penthouse with knobs on, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's going to be interesting. The whole part of this is it's unique. There's nobody really building at this sort of size penthouse that I'm aware of on Brighton seafront at the moment. It's a one-off.
And it will be amazing. Miles plans to take full advantage of the view by building one huge open-plan room across the whole front of the apartment. This will contain the lounge, dining area and kitchen. The rear of the penthouse will have 3 double bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. To top it off, Miles is planning to have a luxurious roof terrace complete with a glass conservatory, housing a jacuzzi. It sounds stunning, but it's also hugely ambitious. Just refitting the existing flats would be a challenge for most people, but building a penthouse apartment 4 floors up on a 200-year-old building could be an absolute nightmare. Miles has only scheduled 8 months to get the build finished, and there's the money. I mean, you've bought the entire thing.
I bought the lot. That cost £1.41 million. The conversion works.
And was that a bit scary? I mean, 1.4 million, is that nothing to you, or is that...
That's everything to me, absolutely everything. This was by far and away the biggest project. The largest project I'd done before this was £250,000. This, in turnaround, will be about 2.1 million.
2.1 million you had to get your hands on to do this development?
Yes. It cost me £10,000 a month just to stand here on it. Obviously, with a fair amount of risk, there's a fair amount of profit, but...
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Borrowing so much money is a very risky strategy, but Miles saw the property's potential. It came with planning permission to build on the roof, which cost him around £50,000 of the purchase price. If he gets this rooftop project right, he could really clean up with this development. His budget for the penthouse is £335,000. And though it's difficult to pin down the value of such a one-off property, he hopes it will sell for somewhere between £600,000 and £800,000. Either way, if he's right, it's a lot of extra profit, somewhere up to £415,000. To secure such a huge profit, the penthouse will need to be flawless, and Miles is off to a good start. He's got the location, he's got the views, and he's got the market. But I've got a major issue with his plans. The penthouse is 4 floors up, and there's no lift. I mean, personally, I wouldn't buy a flat on the 4th floor, even if it was really cheap, let alone pay maximum top-notch figures for it. Simply because I just think taking your shopping up every day, getting the furniture up there, and if you've got people coming to stay, got their suitcases to get, everything is a struggle. And maybe it's because I'm really lazy, but I'm just not sure that you're going for that top-end premium designer, amazing space with 4 flights of stairs to walk up.
I fully understand, and I totally agree with you. I think the property is going to have to stand on its own 2 legs. Whoever's coming to buy this property is going to look at the fact of, yes, there is one element to it that isn't so great.
This one element, though, could be a terrible error. There are plenty of top-spec developments on the market in Brighton competing for rich young professional buyers. And building a 4th floor penthouse without a lift is a very brave move. – 150 miles west of Brighton, in Ross-on-Wye, record producer Gareth Milford is convinced that someone will pay big money for this tiny 2-bed cottage overlooking the Wye Valley.
OK, let's have it.
He's put all his savings into it, but it's already taken him 15 months just to secure the planning permission.
This could be my biggest mistake I've ever made in my life, but I'm prepared to make that mistake. I'm sure it'll be fun making that mistake, but then I might prove everyone wrong, because I don't think anyone expects me to actually see the project through, but I will.
Gareth bought the house in sealed bids for £85,000. His budget is £70,000, and he hopes to sell for £385,000. That means Gareth could make a very healthy £230,000 profit. The problem is, I think Gareth's costs are very low. It might look like the perfect location, but from a developer's perspective, it's far from it. In fact, it's a nightmare. The house is situated on the side of a steep hill, and there's no vehicle access.
At the moment, the access looks like it's going to be a big problem. If the access wasn't a problem, it was on the side of a road with a fantastic view like that, I wouldn't have got it for 85 grand. The dodgy access comes with the beautiful view. You can't have everything, and I think once people have gone up the dodgy access and they walk up there, it's going to be, forget the access, we want the view.
I wish I could share Gareth's optimism. I think not being able to get there could be a huge problem. But despite this and his tiny budget, Gareth's convinced it's going to be easy.
But, I mean, how hard can it be to say, I like that, I don't like that, or that's got to be bigger, or that's got to be smaller?
In Brighton, work should be getting underway. But Miles has discovered that having a big budget doesn't make developing any easier. His surveyor has uncovered a serious problem with the back wall of the building. It was built using a traditional building method which can be notoriously unstable.
The wall has deteriorated and it's debonding. As you can see, it's very loose and this will just crumble away. I think that in itself explains why you can't build off this type of wall.
With a wall this unstable, building on top of it is for the moment totally impossible. This puts the whole penthouse in jeopardy. Miles Gilbert is spending £2.1 million developing this Georgian property on the Brighton seafront. As well as refurbishing 15 flats, he wants to build a penthouse on the roof, which he hopes will make him up to a £415,000 gross profit. But before Miles has even started, his schedule and his budget have taken a major hit. The back wall is literally crumbling away. Repairing it is going to be expensive and take time.
One of the biggest problems for me is it's lost me maybe 2 to 3 weeks. The whole site cost me, as you know, 10 grand a month. So on top of that, and I'm thinking, or I'm being told there's 10 grand's worth of cost. I was hoping not to spend that much contingency straight away, but as you can see, it needs to be sorted.
With costs already mounting, Miles needs to be sure he protects his profit. But I still think without a lift, that's unlikely to happen. Just to get from the beach to the house is a climb in itself. So to have done all this and then face another 4 flights to reach the penthouse is maybe asking too much. Well, it's a long old way, and if you lived in that penthouse, you'd have to be walking at least that distance several times a day just to nip up and down to get home. It is going to put some buyers off a lot.
Yeah, I realise that.
If you can get an elevator up to that top penthouse, you're looking at a totally different sort of buyer to the one who's going to be prepared to buy a gorgeous flat, but with the compromise of having to walk 4 floors up.
Well, I've looked at every avenue with myself and my architect. We've expended a lot of time looking at this. We haven't found a way, but if you can find a way, then I'd be foolish not to look at that.
I think there is a space at the back of the building where Miles could fit a lift, but it would mean losing one of the small studio flats Miles is refurbishing. So I've persuaded Miles to get a lift engineer to have a look at it.
OK, yeah, no problem. We can put the lift certainly on that wall there, and that will take you up to the penthouse at the top.
It's all about the costings on this, so yeah.
It always is.
The cost of installing the lift is £30,000, and Miles would also lose an £80,000 studio flat. It's a lot of money, but a lift would certainly add to the value of the penthouse. But Miles can only see the downside.
The problems I have is I lose a studio flat, however I look at it, and there's an £80,000 loss straight away. I'm not necessarily going to get the value back on the penthouse. I know Sarah disagrees on that, but the other thing is there's a £600 a year maintenance cost that can only be attached to the penthouse. So not only am I saying you've got to pay another 100, 120, 130 grand for the penthouse because you've got a lift, you've also got £600 a year maintenance of it.
Miles has made up his mind, but it's a risky decision, because I think it's unlikely that anyone spending over £500,000 on a flat is likely to be put off by a £600 a year service charge for the lift. The sort of high flyer Miles hopes to attract will expect the absolute best of everything. They're likely to be very design savvy and know exactly what an expensive penthouse would have fitted as standard. This must include good quality expensive materials and a top spec finish. It will be designed by a cutting-edge interior designer, and named brands will feature heavily. Most would have an outside entertaining space, and there'd be a lift. In fact, I'm worried without it, Miles's penthouse just won't work. If he won't put the lift in, he could have a real problem finding someone who's prepared to pay top dollar. Without it, I think it would be worth rethinking the whole project. I think in financial terms, the safest thing to do, which is most likely to guarantee you your return on this, is to have 2 flats up here and not 1. And I understand why you'd want to do 1, because it's much more challenging and much more exciting. But it's also less likely to make the money that you're wanting to make.
I know what you're saying, but I'm a developer with a certain amount of experience. My passion is not throwing money away. My passion is to make money in this, otherwise I have to give it all up and go and do something else.
In terms of your market, the fourth floor, it's going to be easier to carry a £300,000 flat on the fourth floor than an amazing £600,000–700,000 penthouse.
I'm confident on the price that I'm going to achieve. If I don't achieve that, I have to rethink it.
Yeah.
Whether you see it as a mistake, whether I then agree in the future that it is a mistake. I'm big enough to do that, and I'm ugly enough, and I'm probably stupid enough in the fact that anybody can make that mistake, but I'm going to proceed with it.
I admire Miles for his honesty and self-belief, but I think that 2 flats would sell for around the same amount of money as the penthouse, but they'd be much easier to shift. Both apartments would have 2 double bedrooms and a good-sized living space. Most importantly, both would still benefit from a fantastic roof terrace. I just hope Miles's insistence to build a showcase apartment won't end up costing him dear in the long run. 150 miles away in a woodland near Ross-on-Wye, record producer Gareth Milford's development is also proving a bit tricky to get to. Oh my word, we're in the middle of nowhere.
There it is, yeah, and is that...
So this is the path to the house?
It's the footpath at the moment, but hopefully in a few weeks' time it'll be wide enough and not quite so steep for a car.
So did you buy the house knowing that there was no vehicle access?
I did, yeah, but it was a case of when I saw it, I just thought I've got to get this property and I'll worry about the access after.
So how far is it then?
About 20 yards,
cool.
Give or take, I think. Yeah, we'll need a 4-wheel drive.
Yeah, you really will, won't you? Maybe a tractor.
Yeah.
Gareth's 20 yards are actually more like 50, but the views from the top are stunning. Wow, this is the house.
And the house is, wow.
Teeny weeny, isn't it?
It is small. I know when I first looked at it, I thought it was a lot bigger than it was, but like you've just done, you look at that first and think, oh, bonus, there's a house here as well. So, yeah. I don't know, the fact that it is quite small kind of suits the whole, you know, it's not massive land, it's just a cosy little nook.
The cottage is very small. Downstairs there are just 2 rooms, a tiny kitchen and a lounge. Upstairs there are 2 small bedrooms but no bathroom. You have to go outside for that. Gareth knows that the only way to add value is to make the cottage bigger, and he's got planning permission to add a large oak-framed extension at one end, which will create a huge new living space. Knocking down the wall between the original 2 rooms and installing a kitchen will complete the transformation from a tiny cottage into a contemporary, open-plan and trendy pad for the younger market. Upstairs, the extension will mean there's room for 2 big bedrooms, both with ensuite bathrooms. The problem is, having only 2 bedrooms will really limit Gareth's market. If he can fit in a third, it will make all the difference. And I think I've got a solution. This room here used to be the kitchen, and what were you planning on making it?
This was going to stay as the kitchen.
Right, and then knock that through?
That'll go right through. I was going to have a glass breakfast bar there, just to get the lines so as it, you know, looks bigger than it is.
What you could do is leave this room as it is, leave the wall, so have this as a study-3rd bedroom, and then have that room in there as a kitchen breakfast room, because it's quite a big room. And that means that you've got your option of the 3rd bedroom, which you really need to open up the market. The suggestion is to retain the wall between the 2 original rooms. The living space will still be spacious, but having the option of a 3rd bedroom will attract a wider range of buyers. It will also be cheaper.
I think she's got something there with the you know, the bedroom study. It gives people the option, you know, and an office is always good. If someone is inspired by, you know, the view and stuff, they're going to want somewhere to do their work, and you know, it makes sense. Yeah, I'm bored.
Gareth's right to think carefully about how best to spend his money, because the budget is pretty tight. For all the labour and materials, he's allocated £44,000. For plumbing and electric, £7,000. He wants to get the kitchen and 2 bathrooms for £6,500. He thinks he can redecorate the house and landscape that tricky hillside for £4,500. With fees at £8,000, Gareth's total budget is a very ambitious £70,000. Gareth wants to get started straight away, but already that access he didn't see as a problem is causing problems. At the moment, Gareth doesn't even know who owns the footpath, and until he finds out who does, all he can do is clear his site.
It's just really frustrating because everything is in place. I've got, you know, the builders are in place, the sparkers are in place, the drainage is in place, ready to go. Everybody's just waiting, but it's just not being able to do anything is so frustrating. I have no solution, you know, it's out of my hands, that's the problem, and that is the thing that vexes me. It's just frustrating.
Luckily for Gareth, after 6 weeks of hoping, he buys access rights to the land. It's £10,000, which he hadn't included in the budget, but it means he can set about widening the track. Though I don't think he's entirely thought this through, because there's still nowhere for a car to turn around.
I think it will be a concern for people, I really do. It depends who's buying it. If someone wants it as a country retreat, well, it doesn't come any more country than that. I've made the best of a bad job there. It was a footpath, and now it's a driveway. And that's all I can do, really.
The problem is, a prospective buyer might just be able to get up to the property, but it'll be a nightmare to get back down. It's more money, but I think I have a solution. So you go up the very steep drive, but if at the top you've got this turning circle, then you can easily, at the press of a button, just turn around.
Right, OK. I'm not sold yet.
No, but you will be.
Hey, presto,
so, isn't that fantastic?
I'll have to fight the kids off, though, if they're trying to clamber on. Yeah, but what about the price?
Well, actually, they're not that much. It's between £3,000 and £6,000 for a turning circle like this.
Okay. And that'll be... You get your money back with that?
I would make it 10, 20-fold back, because I just think there's a whole load of people who aren't going to be prepared to even look at your house.
Parking, right, OK.
Yeah.
And they'll have a gadget to boot.
Hey, and everyone wants a gadget.
Yeah.
Property development isn't just about bricks and mortar, it's about staying ahead of the game. Work can finally begin, but it's a slow process. Clearing space to build the new extension means vast quantities of earth need to be moved off-site. And with the steep and narrow access, that all takes time.
The thing is, it has been difficult. I know there's no two ways about it, and there's a lot more difficulty to come. But, you know, if it was easy, everyone would have bid on it, wouldn't they?
In Brighton, work on the penthouse hasn't even started. Miles had hoped to have the floor down by now, but he's way behind schedule. The hold-ups allow the weather to turn. It's becoming a nightmare. Miles has had to strip half the roof to lay the new penthouse floor, but the weather protection on the scaffold seems to be anything but weatherproof.
As you can see, we're fully enclosed. There's water everywhere. If we strip the roof off, you've got joists and then you've got ceiling underneath that with some fire protection. I've got a flat under there and the owner wants to move in and actually wanted to move in this week. But, you know, we've stripped off a metre square. I can guarantee I'll go downstairs and that shower room ceiling will have brown patches on it. But the biggest important thing for me is we should have been a little bit further along the way. OK, we shouldn't have been watertight by now, but this weather, you know, this could be it now. This could be it and getting worse for the next 6 months.
And it probably will, because just when Miles really should be reining in his finances, he decides to somewhat bravely splash out £850,000 on another huge development just down the road.
Theoretically, I've seriously overstretched myself. It's very tight at the moment. I've worked out that if no further funding comes in, I'm on credit cards. I have nothing in the bank, which is scary.
Work is yet to begin on Miles Gilbert's luxury penthouse in Brighton. Delays and bad weather are only the half of it. Miles is up to his neck in debt and desperately needs to sell some of the flats to ease his cash flow. Buying another property has only made it worse.
The judgment call that I made is I'm going to put myself through hell cash flow-wise for the potential of a £400,000 to £500,000 profit. However, I'm hoping that over a period of a matter of weeks, maybe a couple of months, the cash flow scenario recovers.
Miles is in a very difficult situation. His 8-month schedule is now unachievable. He needs to get the penthouse started, and the only way out of his cash flow crisis is to borrow even more money. Despite Miles selling 2 studios, he still has to remortgage. But at least now work can start. And on the bright side, the engineers come up with a plan to avoid removing the old roof by building a steel frame above it on which the penthouse will sit. Although his development is now 3 months behind schedule and Miles is massively in debt, the penthouse is at last starting to take shape. And Miles can hardly believe it.
There's a window. So, Tony, it's finished then. We can all go home, it's done. Looks unbelievable, actually. At last, I'm seeing something. At last, the bank manager will be able to see why he's lending me money. It does look good, doesn't it?
With work finally underway, Miles now needs to concentrate on how to persuade people this penthouse will be worth upwards of £600,000. With no lift, the 4 flights of stairs will be the first thing buyers see. And at the moment, they couldn't be more off-putting. You don't get a second chance to make a first impression, so I want to show Miles just what a difference impressive common parts and stairwells can make. Now, and these are sumptuous common parts, absolutely beautiful.
Oh, wow.
It's
Absolutely
a
fantastic.
staircase, isn't it?
Stunning, stunning.
But the reason I brought you here is because as much as the interior design on your penthouse is important, the interior design of the common parts is just as crucial.
Yeah.
The areas I think it's worth concentrating on are the doors, having a patterned carpet, because that wears really well in the common parts, and then think about mirrors, artwork on the walls, and beautiful detailing on the stairs. And I think that's how you'll make the common parts not a laborious journey up 4 flights of stairs.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. I think I haven't spent enough time at this stage thinking about the communal areas because it really does fall at the end of the project. This absolutely sells me the idea that we need to throw a bit more of the budget and have that whole space looking fantastic, or as good as it can be.
Yeah. If Miles is to get nearer £800,000 than £600,000 for the penthouse, he has to make it feel special. But an impressive stairwell doesn't come cheap. To protect his budget, I think he needs to cut back on the luxuries. And he could start by rethinking some of his more extravagant plans in the conservatory. I feel if they really want a jacuzzi, they'll put one in. If they don't want one, and they've got one in there, it's just a painful, annoying thing to try and get rid of, because they're big and complicated. The other thing, though, with your development is that you've got this fantastic space on the roof terrace that could be used as a study, a studio, or an art room, and I think limiting its flexibility by filling it up with a hot tub would be a shame and an unnecessary expense.
I take your point, and I think it's something I really do need to consider. Is this the correct way to spend a budget that isn't a budget where there's no limits?
Absolutely. A good move. It will be an incredible space, and it's a feature that could really help sell the penthouse. In Ross-on-Wye, Gareth Milford also needs to start planning ahead. After 6 frustrating weeks just sorting out access, work on the house itself has finally begun. The end wall is coming down to make ready for the new extension. But now that he's got a digger on site, the excitement seems to be getting the better of him.
Where he's at now, we can see the hole above the wall. He'll be able to get the bucket in there and pull that kitchen wall out. That was going to be a bedroom, but we've decided just to
come through that wall, pull it on through, and then it'll just be an open plan diner, kitchen.
There seems to have been a bit of a U-turn since I last saw Gareth. Although he originally wanted to make the whole downstairs open plan, I thought he'd agreed to change his mind and leave the wall in to create a third bedroom which would broaden out his potential market. It seems a little unwise to lose this opportunity.
Hello.
Why have you decided to take the wall out?
Do you not think that, you know, with the kitchen smells and stuff going in the office and the bedroom, that they need to be, like, you know, as far away from that as possible, or do you think that's not an issue?
Ideally, you wouldn't have them next to each other, but it's better to have an optional third bedroom that is off the kitchen than no optional third bedroom at all.
Right. Well, I'll take that on board. And, Chris, can you stop doing that, please? Knocking the... Oh, it's too late. He's... No, Chris, can you stop?
Has he already done it?
Yeah.
He's going to take the wall down anyway, and I think he's potty, but...
What can you do? What can you do?
Gareth lost the opportunity to give the house that all-important third bedroom. And having just one huge room downstairs brings its own problems. With the kitchen occupying the whole of one end, it's more important than ever to maintain a sleek and impressive space. For the young professional market, there's nothing worse than having an open plan, cool, funky space and clutter all over the kitchen. And the solution to not having clutter is having enough storage.
What about fitting the kitchen out? Is that something that people want to come and see? Do they want, you know, like this microwave looks fantastic in here, or do people want to put their own touch on fittings and stuff?
I think because of the sort of market that you're trying to appeal to, which is, I mean, let's be honest, you've got an extremely expensive two-bedroom house, which is going to be a little retreat or hideaway for someone. I think you need the gadgets to carry the cost.
Right.
Very bizarre. The problem, of course, is that cool kitchens don't come cheap. And with the delays and extra costs he's already had to endure, Gareth's cash has run out and the site grinds to a standstill. Gareth goes back to music producing.
The thing is, with such a big development, you know, it just sucks money. If you think that it's going to cost that much, just double it and double it again. Obviously, when it sells, I'll be quids in. But at the moment, you know, it's not making me money, all it's doing is costing me money, and I need to do something else in order to pay for that, you know, investment.
Four months later, and with a bit more money in his pocket, work begins again.
How long's this going to take, Sid, do you reckon?
A couple of days, I would have thought.
No sooner then?
No, well, I'll try my best, mate.
Yeah, if we could, that'd be great.
Yeah.
We're only 4 months behind schedule now, mate.
OK. Get up a bit earlier then.
Yeah, if you could, yeah, that'd be brilliant. No rush. All right.
But Gareth's had to make some hard choices. To save money, the extension will now be made from steel, not oak, as originally planned. But £4,000 saved does mean work can crack on at full speed. In Brighton, it's a very different story. It's my final visit, but the penthouse is far from finished. Miles had been hoping to finish the development in 8 months, but it's now been going on for over a year. The lack of a lift means the communal stairwells are the first thing a buyer will see. And so far, there's been no improvement.
It's not far.
No. I mean, to really have this as good as it needs to be, you're a long, long way off, aren't you?
A few weeks.
How many weeks do you reckon?
I'm looking at 4 to 5 weeks.
What makes you think that you will be finished in 4 weeks?
It's a good question. I think everybody on the project that's involved in the project has now hit that sort of, you know, pig sick of the project feeling, and I think everyone wants out.
And it's not just the communal areas where there's a huge amount of work to do. The bathrooms, the bedrooms and the conservatory are all way off being finished. However, one room that gives a taste of how lovely this penthouse will be is the open-plan living space. What's the kind of overall vision for this room? What's left to do?
Well, we've obviously got to put in the plasma screen. We've got a fantastic open fireplace through from sitting room to dining room. Kitchen work surfaces, lighting, and then we're pretty much there.
For someone to buy a penthouse apartment here, to pay the amount of money that you're hoping to achieve, it has to be absolutely perfect.
All I can say is you've seen it so far, and the guarantee is that it will be done.
Miles does have an eye for quality. If he ever finishes the penthouse, he could still bring in a great profit. But will he make his top estimate of £415,000? To find out, I've asked 3 estate agents to value the property with Miles's top spec finish in mind.
The communal hallways are quite narrow. Where's the lift? That's all I want to know.
Huge room, massive.
Single glazing only, but new sashes.
This is a beautiful colour kitchen.
This is what they will really enjoy and appreciate 100%. I would value this penthouse at £675,000. I would value this property at £575,000.
I would value this penthouse at £675,000.
The 3 agents valued it at 575 and the other 2 at 675. So the average of those is 641.
I, for a while, thought that maybe we wouldn't be even at the 600 because I saw the marketplace dropping. Fantastic.
Even though the penthouse has been valued at the lower end of Miles's £600,000 to £800,000 estimate, he could still clean up. Buying the roof space for just £50,000 has really helped his figures. He's convinced he can bring the project in just £30,000 over budget at £365,000. And with a sale price of £641,000, if he can sell the property, he stands to make £226,000. But I still think that without the lift, selling it won't be easy. The only thing I would say is that finding the one buyer who's prepared to pay any of those figures is going to be a tricky one.
But I'm hoping that the right person is here as the sun sets over the pier, and they love the space that I've created. I'm really happy.
Miles saw the opportunity with this seafront development, and he should still make a good profit, but only when he finally sells. In Ross-on-Wye, Gareth's been on site and pushing hard to get his cottage finished. The project has been an uphill struggle from the start, but has Gareth done enough to convince the buyers through the front door? That's where this house falls down, is
Well, it
the
did.
access. I mean, this drive has been a nightmare from day one, really, hasn't it? And it could still be someone might not buy it. In Ross-on-Wye in Herefordshire, Gareth Milford's once tiny cottage has become a gleaming modern house, which makes the very best of its incredible setting. The new extension with the floor-to-ceiling glazing has almost doubled the size of the property and means the view can be enjoyed from every part of the building. But despite the incredible view, there's still one problem there's no hiding from. Getting up to the house is still a major undertaking. I don't think you get up there in a normal car at all, would you?
Yeah, you will.
Would you?
Yes, yeah. No, you do.
You reckon?
Yeah, for sure.
What happened about the turning circle? Because you were going to have the amazing turning circle.
No, it was great.
That we discussed,
I loved it.
and you loved it.
Yeah, I did love it.
So where is it?
Well, when I looked into the cost of it, it wasn't quite so cost-effective, to be honest. One car can still turn in here, but, you know, really tightly. But if you've got guests, there's loads of parking, as much as you want.
So is it all finished inside?
Yeah, all done.
There may be plenty of space, but I'm not convinced that in front of the house makes an ideal car park. But one thing's for sure, Once a prospective buyer enters the house, they will be amazed by the end result. Gone is the small and dingy cottage to be replaced by a thoroughly modern home, which makes the most of the natural light and the views. Nowhere is the feeling of modernity more present than in the stylish and functional kitchen. God, there's not much cottage left, is
Gone.
there?
No, cottage is gone.
It is great. It's really... Well, do you know what's lovely is it's surprising as you come in, and I think that's...
Yeah.
There's a real charm about that.
I always wanted it to be a shock, so...
Yeah, no, it is. I still think you could have fitted a study or third bedroom down here and had a kitchen, breakfast room in the same space, and it could have been just as magnificent as this. Gareth's decision not to have a third bedroom has limited his options. It makes it pricey for a two-bed house, and the open-plan layout won't appeal to everyone. Gareth has restricted himself to a niche market, a younger buyer who will appreciate the funky design, the state-of-the-art technology, and not mind getting up the hill. But Gareth is unrepentant.
I didn't want it to be a nothing house. You know, if I was going to appeal to just an older generation, I would have done it for that. But I didn't want it to just be a boring house. It was a bit of this and a bit of that. I just wanted it to be something.
And it certainly is, with knobs on.
Good, good.
And tell me about your hot tub plans, because you couldn't afford a turning circle, but you could afford a hot tub.
Yeah, it was a hot day.
And you were hot.
Yeah, that's it. End of
That's
story.
no excuse
No.
at all. But, yeah, I mean, it kind of goes
It's an
with
entertainment solution.
Well, the whole house is an entertainment solution,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah,
Upstairs, the stylish theme continues to delight. The second bedroom wouldn't look out of place in a boutique hotel. And the master suite is superbly designed to make the very best of those wonderful views, and not just from the bedroom. I love this bathroom, just wonderful.
No, I'm glad you like it. That's good.
Certainly do. It'd be difficult not to like it, wouldn't it, really?
I suppose, yeah. Everyone who comes up is like, oh, which is exactly what I was trying for. It really was.
Well, you've done it. Lying in that bath must be nice.
I don't know yet.
Don't you? No, I'm going to find out. I bet you it is.
Let me know what it's like.
Hey, it's wonderful.
Yeah, it works.
You just need a gin and tonic.
And watch the
You're
sun go
away.
down,
You'd never
yeah.
get out of this bath, I don't reckon.
The sun sets just like straight ahead through the doors there.
The property is the height of luxury, but its transformation hasn't been an easy process. I mean, this whole, when you think about what this was and what it now is, and it's unrecognisable.
I've erased that memory. Yeah. Through the sleepless nights, it's just gone.
It's a hazy, distant memory.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
And how have you found the process of doing this? Have you enjoyed it?
At times I have. There was times when I just didn't want to be here. Just the access and getting stuff here is like, you know, it was quite a harsh lesson to learn. But, you know, it was the price it was because of that harsh lesson.
Absolutely, because it was only £85,000.
That's right, yes.
Property developing is about spotting a great deal, and Gareth certainly got one. But you do have to be ruthlessly realistic about what it's actually going to cost to turn around. Gareth had budgeted just £44,000 for labour and materials. In fact, he spent £94,500. Plumbing and electrics went from £7,000 to £9,000. He wasn't far off with his kitchen and bathrooms, budgeting £6,500 and fitting them all for just £7,000. For landscaping and decorating, Gareth had allocated £4,500, but buying the rights to the driveway and making it passable added £10,000 to the bill. The fees rose from £8,000 to £11,000, taking Gareth's total budget soaring from £70,000 to £136,000. Now more than ever, Gareth has to get the £385,000 he was hoping for.
OK, that's obviously a bit of a trek up there. What a beautiful spot. It's almost worth that trek.
Oh, wow. It's all open plan.
But very nice, very well finished.
I'm not entirely certain about the radiators.
It's a bit different. It's nice to have some individuality.
The access isn't great. Obviously a bit of a lack of parking.
I would value this property at £345,000.
I would value this property at £350,000.
I value this property at £400,000.
The average is 365,000. So if you did sell it for 365,000, that's £144,000 profit.
There you go then, yeah, it wasn't a bad shot.
No, it wasn't a bad shot. I thought you were bonkers, actually, I have to say. But considering you went into this blind, didn't know what you were taking on.
No, that is good. And that means that I can justify to my girlfriend that jacuzzi now. It's fantastic, yeah.
And now it's the house hunters that need to be convinced. Well, they think it's worth the hike up the hill.
That's amazing, it really is.
Oh, wow, look at this.
No, that feeling of space with the height.
It's big, isn't it?
I expected anything like this.
Oh, my goodness, look at the views from up here.
Sun's shining, nice day in the hot tub, that would be good.
Oh, God, look at the bathroom. Oh.
It's very futuristic. You don't want to park your car up here because it'll spoil the view.
I love the outside. The outside, the view, the house itself, but it's too modern.
It's an incredible place, but in this case, the access, the parking is just not going to be right for me.
It might take a while to find someone who wants such a specific style of house, but for the time being, Gareth's more than happy to hold out for the asking price. A development in a sensational location will always carry a premium, but it won't necessarily guarantee you an extra profit. The only way to do that is to make sure that the money you do spend is in the right places. Next week, I'm heading back to Felixstowe to see if Mike Horgan can turn a rather lopsided second development into a straight profit. It hasn't been without its problems.
No, it's definitely been a few issues on it.
A bit of a wonky.